Welcome everyone to the MUSC Conversation Cafe. This is our March edition and we will be talking about CARTA, that is the Charleston Area Regional Transit Authority today. My name is Christine Von Kalnitz. I'm the Sustainability Manager at MUSC and I'd like to thank you all for joining today. Sustainability at MUSC, the mission of that is to build a healthy community by inspiring and implementing solutions to environmental, social, and economic challenges. And the initiatives that we work on include energy and water management, food, transportation, climate, green building, recycling, and waste management.
Hi everyone, my name is Rachel Whitbeck. I'm one of the sustainability interns at MUSC. We normally have a conversation cafe every month, but next month, because it's Earth Day, we decided to just have Earth Month instead, and we won't be having a regular conversation cafe. Instead, we'll be having a series of different events throughout the month to help celebrate Earth Month. And we've come up with the theme of resilience for all of the events. So the first will be on April 7th, which is going to be a panel with Solve Climate by 2030, which College of Charleston is putting on. So if you want to learn more, you can email Darcy Everett at this email address. And then the big one that's happening on Earth Day is going to be another faculty panel called Resilience in the 21st Century, exploring the social, economic, and environmental aspects of climate change for Charleston. And that's by College of Charleston, us, MUSC, and the Citadel as well. So we're all collaborating to do that event on actual Earth Day. And we're going to have a couple more events that are to be determined. So look out on our social media for those that are coming up next month. I will introduce our guest speakers. So first we have Mike Seekings, who is our city councilman and CARTA board chairman. And we have Sharon Hollis, who is the principal planner, and Michelle Emerson, who is the marketing and communications manager at BCD-COG. So now I will turn it over to Michelle.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you guys for having us. We're always delighted when we're able to come down and kind of talk to you guys and give you guys some updates on what CARTA is doing and how it's helpful to all of you guys. So today I just wanted to step in for a quick second and let you guys know that we're kind of changing the flow of what we normally do because we have a great update for LCRT. So we have, again, the project manager who will be providing some information. We also have the chairman of CARTA, Mr. Mike Seekings, who will be providing some information and then introducing Sharon. After that, we will then do a CARTA update, and that's where I'll give you a few of the main updates that will be pretty prominent for most of you guys. And at that point, we'll have some question and answer regarding the CARTA portion later on. So that's just a little change up in our schedule. We will allow some question and answers to happen right after the LCRT section. So without further ado, because we got a lot of information to get to you guys, we'll have our chairman, Mr. Mike Seekings, will come to you now.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle and Christine. Rachel, thank you to MUSC for having us today to have a conversation about something that's near and dear to our hearts and something that we've been working on for a long time, which is Low Country Rapid Transit, and then all the things that are happening at CARTA, many of which you may know about, but some of which you probably don't. My name is Mike Seekings, and I have the honor of being the chairman of CARTA, and I will tell you, if there's a better job out there today, I don't know what it is, because I get to work with some incredible people like Michelle and Sharon on projects that are truly revolutionary and new. And if you think about it and you close your eyes for just a minute and you think about what in the world makes a good and great city, invariably somewhere on your list that you write down in the top 5, I predict probably in the top 3, is mobility and transit and transportation infrastructure. And we here in the Low Country, now celebrating our 350th year as a city, have never truly had a large-scale transit project, save for the 1920s and 1930s when we had trolleys on our streets and downtown on the peninsula. We just haven't had that, and it's not been part of who we are as a community, and it's not been sort of woven into our culture. Well, that's about to change. And I think what you hear today will get you excited and get you thinking about all of the ways that our community is going to benefit from some vision and some hard work in putting into place the first and what we suspect will be a series and an integrated series of transportation projects to bring large-scale transit to the Lowcountry. I will say that 10 years ago, had we talked about this, Sharon, we probably would have not been here. We have gone out and talked a lot to people, and I think what you're going to hear today, and I know what you're going to see, is that transit and transportation, when done right and when been done in a thoughtful way, absolutely brings benefits to a community that are immeasurable and gives opportunities to people across the spectrum to have a better quality of life, and that's really what we strive for. So. The person who probably has the most interesting but the most difficult job in this entire Lowcountry Rapid Transit process is Sharon Hollis, who is on the bottom left of my screen, about to be front and center of your screen. She's the project manager for this endeavor, Lowcountry Rapid Transit. And as I said, if you think about transit and how important it is to a community, and transit not being a part of our community for now 350 years, the opportunities and challenges that face Sharon every single day are great, but she has led this charge in a way that I can only say is impressive. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sharon to let her show you what our project is, what you can expect in the near and long term, and answer any questions you have. And I will just close by saying MUSC is a big part of our project and a big part of the reason why this is even happening. MUSC has been a shared and really good partner with CARTA over the years. I typically begin my talks by asking people in the room, 20 to 50 to 100, to raise their hand and ask when the last time or whether in the last 30 days they'd ridden public transit. And invariably, it's about a 2% response rate in the affirmative. At MUSC, a little bit higher because we partnered with you all, and you are used to using transit as part of your everyday life. So once you've seen what we're doing, you not only are going to be our favorite customers, some of our favorite customers, but really ambassadors for what's going to be happening here in the Lowcountry, and getting the word out that transit is something that not only do we need, but we want to provide mobility in an efficient, safe way that meets the needs of everyday people's lives. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sharon Hollis and hand over the screen to her and ask her to do her thing.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you again, and thank you for the introduction, Chairman Siggings. We're always excited to give this update, and I know it's been well over a year since we last updated to this group, and a lot has happened since then. We haven't really slowed down despite COVID, and we've actually been able to probably be a little more efficient in getting a lot of things done. So just to give you a little bit of background on the Lowcountry Rapid Transit Project, for those of you that may not be familiar, in response to the population growth that we've been seeing in our region, and knowing that we can't widen our way out of congestion, particularly on that I-26 corridor, we did a 15-month study called I-26 ALT to identify a fixed guideway transit solution to really provide options and better mobility for the region. And in 2016, Charleston County sales tax voters voted for that HAF transportation sales tax, and this was one of the projects identified to be funded as part of that. So when we talk about Lowcountry Rapid Transit, it's a bus rapid transit system. What does that mean? Well, it's a much more high level quality, higher capacity transit service that does a lot to emulate a rail system, but it has that flexibility of being on rubber tires and of having the ability to go off of the rail if there's an incident. These are some images of systems throughout the country that have recently opened that really characterize the standard and the level of improvements that this type of system can bring. So the stations are permanent part, fixed assets in the roadway system. They have their own branding. They have larger vehicles, 60-foot, what we call articulated vehicles that can carry up to 90 passengers. And as you can see in the bottom right-hand screen, can also be configured to accommodate a lot more bicycles than we currently are able to configure. You pay your fare before you board. You have security, you have lighting, you have cameras, you have protection from the weather. So it really becomes part of that urban street network to really create a premium level of service. So since we last met, we probably were showing an alternative going from Somerville to the peninsula. We've been doing a lot of work to refine the project to develop one that can compete for federal funds and really one that can achieve the purpose and needs. So the solution that we're moving forward into a very competitive grant program that I'll talk about in just a moment would begin at the Exchange Park Fairgrounds up in Ladson on US 78 with a park and ride facility. And so a connection to Somerville would be made with local transit services as well as providing that park and ride option. On this map, you'll see about 20 stations along the line. The Melnick Park and Ride in North Charleston is one you may be familiar with. There will be a station that connects to that park and ride as well. We anticipate a 16-minute travel time from end to end, with just over 50% of the project will operate in its own dedicated bus lane. So what that means is that the bus will be separate from traffic and will be able to have some priority at the intersections to get through a red light faster than it typically would. Service would be every 10 minutes during the peak and midday. So it's a much more frequent level of service than you see today. And I mentioned that connecting service. So on this map where you see the green line, that's where that dedicated guideway would be located. The areas in orange would operate in mixed traffic. So as the alignment travels on Rivers Avenue into the peninsula, it would travel on King Street Extension in mixed traffic, onto Meeting Street, Calhoun Street, and into the medical district. And I have a closer view of that I'll show you in just a moment. But it is a 21.5-mile corridor, one of the largest bus rapid transit systems in the country that would be in existence, and that's under development. Our recent ridership projections anticipate about 6,800 daily trips would operate on the line at full build out. And that's assuming that there's only a 20-second stop at each station. So it's not like your typical CARTA bus where you have to climb stairs, you have to board and pay your fare. It's much quicker to board because you've already paid your fare, and we have what's called level boarding. So you can walk directly from the platform onto the bus vehicle, or if you have a cart or a wheelchair, it's very easy to roll onto it. And we'll have about 19 vehicles as part of this system. We are looking at battery electric vehicles so that we can have that clean zero emission fleet consistent with CARTA's current initiative to replace its diesel fleet with battery electric. These two images kind of show an example of what a typical BRT could look like in various parts of the corridor. When we're on Rivers Avenue, closer to Ashley Phosphate, we have a center running station with dedicated bus lanes in the center, and then the automobile traffic on the sides, and then pedestrian facilities on either side beyond there. We have a lot of room in the section of Rivers Avenue where there's the existing green median that will be able to maintain some of that green as well as some of those trees as well. So we're not going to be taking away all of the green off of Rivers Avenue. When we get to more constrained parts of the corridor where we don't have room for two lanes, we do what's called a bi-directional guideway where the buses take turns going down the dedicated bus lane. And we have a couple areas going over I-26 at US 78 and further closer to Rivers Avenue. And then the remainder of the corridor, as I said, would operate in mixed traffic, and it would use technology and some reconfiguration of lanes to help keep traffic flowing. As long as traffic is flowing in the peninsula, then BRT can flow. In terms of the stations, there's a lot of standard amenities that will be at these stations. They will be ADA compliant. They'll have real-time display information on when the bus is arriving. You'll pay your fare before you board. You'll have Wi-Fi access, seating, and really take advantage of that space in the center of the roadway, which also, if you look on this picture, it will make it much easier to cross as a pedestrian on Rivers Avenue from one side to the other because you'll have that safe refuge in the middle. Bike and ped facilities are a big part of this project. If you're familiar with the Rivers Avenue corridor, you know it's not a pleasant place to be if you're walking on foot or on bicycle, as you can see in some of these images. So we will be bringing in 16.5 miles of shared use path that will connect from the low line at Mount Pleasant Street all the way up to to I-26, the Trident Health CSU area. So it's a significant improvement into to that type of access, a much safer way to bike and walk on the corridor. We'll also be doing some reconstruction of sidewalk where there's some that may be missing or need to be replaced. More significantly, though, we're adding 34 pedestrian crosswalks along this corridor. This is one of our most dangerous streets, Rivers Avenue is. So we'll be able to improve that safety by providing these crosswalks where people can have a safe, signalized way to cross Rivers Avenue. And I think that will add a much added benefit for anyone that's even driving on that corridor to provide a much safer flow for those folks. And we do have some areas where we don't have room for a shared use path, so we are incorporating bike lanes, primarily at Meeting Street to connect to those existing bike lanes up near Sproul Avenue. This map kind of shows a close-in as to where the stations are being located in a medical district. Again, we'll be operating in mixed traffic, but we have several locations that have been identified. They're essentially the stations that are out there today that you're probably familiar with. So we have stations that would be at Jonathan, Lucas, and Berry. And in the peninsula, the stations will be on the sides as opposed to the center. So it will be side running bus rapid transit. So where you have that existing express stop at Jonathan Lucas on Calhoun Street, that will become a BRT stop also served by the current express services. I think it's important to note that this system is not intended to replace the corridor services, but really to complement it, to provide a faster trip for those longer trips, and connecting to the existing services will be critical. So we are doing a route optimization study to look at how the existing services can connect to these stations and provide some of that last mile connectivity. We also have a station identified at Dowdy Street on Courtney Drive, and then we will be connecting to the West Edge, Gadsden Green area at Line Street and Haygood, which will be our end of the line station. So you'll see a dashed line on this map, and this is essentially our flood route. If Fishburne and Haygood intersection is impassable, we'll travel on Haygood, but for the most part, the route will travel on B Street, Lockwood, and Fishburne to connect to a station on Line Street. So these would be the stations that you'd be able to access at MUSC and provide those connections that you would need to move from one side of the crosstown to the other. I mentioned the Charleston County half-cent sales tax that has identified about $180 million toward the construction of the project, and then an additional $70 million toward operations over the next 15 years once it opens. We are in a very competitive program called the Capital Investment Grants Program from the Federal Transit Administration. And we're right now going through the various steps that we need to go to compete for these funds. You essentially have to demonstrate you have a project and do all the planning and engineering up front. And once you meet those criteria, then they'll give you the funding to start construction. So it's a very competitive program. They appropriate about $2.3 billion per year, but there's about 3 times more as many projects in the pipeline vying for these dollars. It's very important that we have a project that we know can sustain the ridership and be competitive in the program. It is a significant program. It can fund that new roadway expansion for the dedicated guideway where we have that. It can fund those stations and those bike connections to those stations. It will fund the technology we need for our signals to upgrade them to accommodate transit signal prioritization, which can also benefit some of the technology and upgrades needed for just better signal control in general. We are doing a pilot project of the transit signal prioritization on Dorchester Road to kind of test the technology that we're starting to do that study this month. And then, of course, we'll have maintenance facility needs as part of the new fleet as the 60-foot vehicles come online. So where we are in the project, we're currently in what's called the project development phase, and we have until September to complete a lot of the documentation, that 30% conceptual design or environmental documents, and a lot of planning documents to demonstrate that we have a solid project, we can meet the criteria of the grant, and that we can build and efficiently use this funding for a true transit project that can benefit the community. So in September of this year, we'll submit to go into the next phase, which is engineering, which is about a 2 to 3 year phase to complete that final design, do all of our permitting, any right-of-way acquisition. We don't anticipate much right-of-way since we are working in a pretty significant a road corridor that has a lot of existing right-of-way. And then construction, we'd look at 2023, late 2023, early 2024 for construction to start. It's probably a good 2 to 3 year construction time frame. It is a 21.5-mile corridor. One of the things with this type of project is you can construct it in phases, but you really can't open it until it's all complete. And so we'll be looking as we go over the next few years as to what that construction schedule looks like and how that can impact the existing travel flow. So we've been having a lot of events like this, a lot of outreach going on over the past few months, and that will continue into spring and summer. Looking forward at this month and in April, we are doing what's called a transit-oriented development study, which is looking at the station areas to identify where we can incorporate affordable housing, more mixed use, really those types of land uses that can accommodate transit ridership and help support the system, but also support some of those economic development needs in the community. So we have 8 station area workshops that we'll be doing virtually in March and April to really focus on particular stations, for example, the Northwoods Mall station or Reynolds Avenue station. We have one at Mount Pleasant Street where the planned hot lot is located. So we have several of those that will be scheduled over the next 2 months that the public is invited to attend. And then we will be kicking off an online public meeting focused on the Low Country Rapid Transit project in April. And that will include some visualizations of really what the project will look like on the ground here in our region, as well as some simulations so you can see what traffic will look like, some of the changes that could occur on Rivers Avenue as a result of this project and how that all works together to really create an integrated system. So those are 2 meetings that are coming up. And then in the summer, we'll have, as we wrap up our environmental documentation, we'll have another round to present the outcomes of that study. So a whole lot of outreach going on. We do have Morgan Grimes, her contact information is here, and I think she's in the room with Michelle. She is our community and outreach specialist dedicated to this project. So she is out there talking to the community members. I think she's almost reached a 500 person, 500 people that she's touched and spoken to on the corridor physically since she started this outreach. So she's really talking to a lot of the community members and setting up sessions like this. So she's there, her contact information, she can get you connected to the right people that, on the project team if you have specific questions. Of course, my information is up here as well. If you have any questions, we can certainly answer those. But there's a lot going on. We do have a website, lowcountryrapidtransit.com, as well as a generic email. We do have a newsletter and an email list that you can sign up for so that you can get updates when these meetings go live or when we're out in the community talking. We are doing virtual events, but we are also doing some COVID safe in-person events as well. So we have a lot of that scheduled over the next few months. But with that, I will open it up to any questions that you may have.
Sharon, the first one is, would this replace the current CARTA buses that work in conjunction with MUSC buses from Haygood to West Edge?
That is a conversation that we need to have. So right now we're doing the route optimization study and we're looking at how best to utilize the current services that are out there. And one of the things we look at is duplicative services. Are there services that this could provide a better level of better quality of service? And so that conversation has not been had yet, but that will be part of what we look at as part of that route optimization. Because potentially it could provide that same connection, but it may not meet the needs of MUSC. So that's a conversation that we would have with that particular route.
Okay, the next one is, will the closed rest area past the College Park exit be a park and ride stop as part of this new updated program?
It is not a park and ride stop as part of this route, since we won't be traveling on I-26, but that has been identified in our park and ride study as an opportunity for a future park and ride for express type services. So we do have a regional transit framework plan where we looked at the entire network of these types of services, and bus on shoulder, which is kind of an express bus service that can operate on an interstate in the shoulders, was identified for I-26, and that would be a logical connection for that particular project.
When can we expect to be able to use our phones to pay for the fare? Are there plans for bus passes to be digitized? Seems unsustainable to mail passes.
I can touch on that, and then Michelle, you may have additional to add, but we were fortunate to receive a demonstration grant through the FTA that will allow us to look at a trip planning and fare payment app across both CARTA and Tri-County Link, so you can plan your trip and pay your fare for both of those systems in one spot. So that is something that we're working toward, and we do have some funds to put that in place. So probably this time in the next year, we may be being able to say yes to that question.
And related to that is, would MUSC employees be able to use their badges as payment or scanning for the system?
I think that would be the hope, but until we get the technology, we'll have to answer that question once we get that. But yeah, that would be the perfect scenario, would be just to be able to tap your pass and pay. It really depends on the technology, but that is one of the goals that we set in our request.
So that connecting bus to Summerville, can you tell us more about that? What's the frequency that it'll operate on, and is it going to be an additional fare?
We are currently evaluating the options for that connection to Summerville, but there is an existing Tri-County Link route that could provide that connection that would be able to offer additional frequency to be better timed. So more information to come on that, but that is a service that we're looking to incorporate to provide those connections.
You want to go ahead, Michelle?
Sure, absolutely. So again, hi guys. Again, thank you for having us. This is going to be again a little bit quicker, and it was a couple of things that I really needed to make sure that you guys are aware of, just where we are in the year. And then on our next update, I'll be bringing a whole lot more, because as Sharon and as our chairman said earlier, we really do have a lot of things that are going on. We have kind of not lost a step during the whole process. And so we've been very efficient and able to move some things forward. So we've got a lot of programs and different services to bring you guys, and I'll kind of step into that a little bit on our next one. But one of the main ones that I wanted to bring to you today is from a CARTA standpoint, and a update for CARTA is a program that we call CARTA On Demand. Now, CARTA On Demand is a service that is directly linked to the medical district. And that was one of the reasons I want to specifically talk to you guys about that and get a little bit more information in front of you. So CARTA On Demand is a new pilot program where CARTA has partnered with Uber and UServe to provide rides to seniors who are 55 and older and Telluride customers on the peninsula, to provide them with on-demand rides to and from the medical district and the Publix that is right near the medical district. So the whole goal of this was to provide these folks with greater access or accessibility to healthcare and to food and to a pharmacy. Again, this is a pilot program, and we totally understand that there's a larger area out there, and a lot of the calls and connections that we have been making are from people who are outside of the peninsula area. But we're truly hoping with the success of this in the downtown area that we might be able to actually expand this at some point into other areas. So to give you a little bit of information so you'll know kind of sort of what the parameters are, what we're looking at. Again, this is only for the peninsula area. So it's not necessarily that folks have to live on the peninsula, but they have to be located on the peninsula area when they're using the service. It is only for seniors who are 55 and older, and it is only for current Carta Telluride customers. The other set parameter for the program is that one leg of the trip must be going to or coming from the medical district, or the Publix that is near that medical district. That medical district includes you guys, MUSC, it includes Roper, it includes VA Hospital, that whole area where it's a lot of medical offices and medical complexes is the area that folks can go to at that point. The service will run Monday through Friday, and it'll be 9 to 5. We had a Route 204 that was out there that was doing some connections from like the Canterbury House, for example, to the medical district. But I think the hours and the timing just wasn't working for a lot of riders. And so we didn't have a lot of ridership. So we actually discontinued that route, and we're putting all of our efforts into this at this point to kind of help out. Again, this service is an on-demand service, so it's a little bit different than anything else that Carta has brought to this area in the past, because again, they can call Uber, or they can they can contact Uber, or they can contact UServe to actually get rides, and they can get a ride within about an hour is usually what we're telling people, to make the reservation in about an hour to make it where they can get where they need to go. So that's basically the parameters of it. So it is a $4 ride for the passengers. Carta will actually pay the remaining amount up to $21. So what does that mean? So that means if someone is trying to book a ride from the Canterbury House to go to their medical appointment with you guys at MUSC, I think we did a test run, and I think they did it on the app, on Uber's app, and it was about $10 for that ride. So if they are using it through us, they would only pay $4, and we would pick up the remaining amount of that. So it is a much better deal as far as cost and savings for riders, and it gives them the availability and the flexibility to be able to get a ride when they need it a little bit more within windows where they don't have to call 24 hours in advance. Before I go any further and give you just a tad bit more as far as to let you know how these folks actually can qualify, or how they actually get to the services, I want to make sure to put it out there. This is not to replace Telluride at any means. This is something that's seen as in conjunction with. This is just giving another option for folks, and making sure that they have all the mobility options that they can, or that we can provide at that point. At the end of this, I'll definitely make sure that Christine has my information, the numbers, the email addresses, everything else that you guys would need, because my hope and our goal is for this to become a resource tool to you guys. As much as we are reaching out to the community, and we are talking to all of our current Telluride customers, and we're talking to as many seniors that we know in the area and senior groups, because this is specifically designed with you guys in mind, it's important for you guys to know about it, because you know your patients better, and you know your customers better, and even the folks that work in that area. You guys know how to be more of a resource to a lot of those folks, and you can provide that information. So if you know someone that, again, may have a appointment that comes up and they're not often able to find rides and whatnot, this is that resource that we want you guys to have. We would love for your general information folks to know, but we would also love for every specific clinic, every specific area and program to either have one of our one-sheeters, one of our flyers that has the information, just so whoever that person is, that information person in that area, they would be able to provide that to customers if they needed to. So just really quickly on how they use it, and then we'll move on to our final update, and then we can have some question and answer time. So again, seniors 55 and older, they must apply. They must contact us. Again, I'll give you those phone numbers shortly and an email address, and they can contact us, and they put an application in. It's a very simple application. They send an ID, and it's usually a few days process. And once they are approved, they will be able to use the service Uber or UServe. UServe is an Uber-like company. It is a little bit more geared towards ADA customers and clientele. So once they are approved, they can then call, or they can then download the Uber app, or, and I'll tell you how to get the Uber app in just 1 second. Telluride customers are currently already eligible for the program. So they don't necessarily have to contact us, at least for one of the providers. They can go ahead and start calling today if they wanted to. So going to that difference between the providers, Uber is used through an app. And one of the reasons we did have these two providers is to make sure that we provided or covered as much accessibility to people as possible. Uber is an app for the most part, and that's how people are going to have to actually request those rides. UServe, we ask those customers to call in, and there's not an app right now for them. So for folks who do not have a smartphone, for folks who do not have access to technology, or they may not have a computer in their home, those folks can still call and get a ride. We wanted to make sure that we covered that base as well. So again, on the Uber side, once those seniors receive their approval, they will also receive some information about Uber. To ride Uber, you will need a voucher. So those seniors will get that information in their receipt and approval email. Teleride customers, that's the only time they would have to contact us, is if they wanted to use Uber. We will simply send them a voucher. They click on it. It's a very easy process. You go through the setup. It actually then links to the Uber account. When the user actually pulls up their Uber account, it will actually show Carta, and then it'll show their personal account and any of those trips that are made in the Peninsula area to and from the medical area, and the Publix will be counted in that. With UServe, again, if they can call, and the first call is a few minutes because they want to make sure that you're in the system and they check you off. And after that, you just give them your where you're currently at and what your destination is, and then you can set up your ride home as well. The other last caveat on UServe is that if a customer has to have wheelchair accessibility, they must use the UServe component in that. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of information, and to be able to kind of gather it and understand it all, but I promise you, after a few times of using it and talking to customers about it, it'll become a whole lot easier. It's really to make everything a lot more simpler and easier for folks, and to give them those two different options. Even as we've been going through the process and we've been noticing some things that we might have needed to modify or change here and there, I can say that both companies have been extremely helpful. Some of them have even reached out to customers and tried to help them through anything that was any way confusing to them. We will come out, if we need to come out to different groups. We would welcome that opportunity to come in and explain it to groups or different programs at MUSC. We can also help with travel trip training if necessary as well. And we can actually schedule some trips with a group of folks, or with just one individual if necessary, and kind of teach them how to go through it. So that's one of the main ones that I wanted to make sure that I got to you. Okay, so the number, if they are requesting information, is 843-529-6284. If they are requesting a actual ride, the number they would call is an 843 number as well. That's 843-592-3505. Let's see, I believe that's the main information for Carta on Demand. And as I said, I can get you some more information on that shortly as well. That's mainly on Carta on Demand. And again, I'll welcome any questions afterwards. Very quickly moving on to the very last thing I wanted to give you guys an update on is our COVID situation and dealing with it on the buses. We understand that from what we have heard that there will be a good bit of employees coming back on campus. So for you guys who have been riding with us this whole time, first of all, thank you. We totally appreciate that. And we are continuing to do our same protocol that we have been doing the entire time. I do want to reiterate that currently masks are still required on board all vehicles. Even if you have a face shield, you are still required to wear a face covering or a face mask in that area as well. And that is probably going to continue going on for the foreseeable future. I'm not sure when that will actually be taken out. Primarily because when you get on a bus, we can't promise social distancing. Now, during this period of time, a lot of buses have been able to just naturally be able to socially distance. And so riders have been kind of making that choice themselves and making sure that they spread out as they are actually getting on the buses. But as more folks start getting back into going on campus and going into the office, that ability is going to kind of decline at that point. So it's even more important that people people do adhere to those policies of wearing a mask, a shield, but definitely a mask over their nose and mouth. We have images on the buses telling you how to properly wear your mask. And so we definitely have to have those things. Please be reassured that we are cleaning our buses every single night. We are still using all of the protocols that we've been doing in the past. We're wiping down all touch areas. We're still using I think it's the magnetic spray that when they spray it out, it adheres to all surfaces and helps to kill those that bacteria and the virus. And so, but we're also making sure again that we wipe down all touch areas as well, because we know it's not just about spraying and just doing a very general cleaning. We know that a lot of times that you may have to touch a seat or possibly touch the back of a seat, or even when you are those of you that are paying using the console or the fail box in the front. So again, just be assured, I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that we are still taking all of that very seriously. We understand that everybody in our community has not been vaccinated. And so this continues to be a threat. And so we want to make sure that we are doing all the steps that we can to make sure that we can keep everyone as safe as possible. I do believe that there are a few services that may be picking back up a little bit more as you guys come back on campus, like the shuttle, the 203 shuttle, but we'll know more information about that as we go through the next couple of weeks and figure out exactly when you guys are coming back and how many are coming and so forth and so on. So with that, that leaves us a few minutes to be able to go through our kind of questions and answers. And before we fully turned it over, I just wanted to remind everybody, yeah, this is Morgan. I know you guys met her last time when we had our last Conversation Cafe, and that was our first video one that we had done. But as Sharon mentioned before with LCRT, Morgan is doing a fantastic job of getting out there and talking to the community, and she welcomes any opportunities for us to get out there and talk to you guys even more. And that's what she's doing every single day, being out there. So please send anything that you have, questions, requests, to her. So, all right, we will turn it back over to you, Ms. Christine.
I want to thank you, Michelle, and Councilman Seekings and Sharon, for all of this great information about CARTA and such a necessary service. And, you know, MUSC really appreciates all of the CARTA system, everything that you're doing for MUSC. It's been great. So the first question here is about safety. What options do the drivers have should a safety issue arise on the park and ride buses?
So when they're saying safety, well, I guess are they talking about in reference to mask wearing, or are they just talking about general safety?
I think
I'm trying to read it
it's
as
more.
well.
I think it says we had 3 different situations that were safety issues.
Okay.
It doesn't say what they were.
Gotcha. Okay. So the main ways that the drivers are able to handle that, and we anticipate a lot of those things sometimes, because again, we're dealing with a large group, and we're dealing with different people in our communities. And so that's one of the reasons we have our radios there. And so the drivers have a direct connection to dispatch, which can then send information. They can send supervisors, they can send whatever help that's needed at a moment's notice when that driver actually picks up and actually contacts them. That's the main reason for having those radios on the buses, is to give them that direct link to our dispatch office, so that if anything does arise, that they have some assistance on it. Our drivers do a fantastic job, and just like you guys, they have been out there on the front line this whole time, and I can't say enough about the job that they have done. They do train for some of those situations, and so I'm glad to see in your message that you say that the driver did handle it very well, because they are trained to do that. But again, we also want to make sure that they have some access, because, you know, sometimes it's beyond what they can just handle at that point. So whenever that happens, we make sure that someone goes out, and a supervisor, or if someone else is needed, if law enforcement is needed, then they are called at that point in time as well.
So next question is, what are the dates for the bus to the beach service, and when does that service start?
So that's another one that I wanted to be able to give you an update on. It was just that we were running kind of quick on time and didn't get a chance to tell you about it. But just very quickly, if you want to go to ridecarter.com and look at some information as we start putting it up there in the next couple of weeks, talking about that bus shuttle to the to IOP. At this point, from my understanding, I believe it is starting around Memorial Day, towards the end of May. I'm not sure if that is the exact date or not, but I know it should be right around that, if not on that date. But we will be providing more information on that in the coming weeks as far as what routes you can use to connect to that shuttle. If there's any parking available that we're picking up from Park and Rides, we'll be providing all of that information in the coming weeks.
So Christine, it's going to run weekends from Memorial Day to Labor Day, 9 to 5, from the DMV parking lot in Mount Pleasant to a stop on the Isle of Palms. It'll run on the hour every hour. I suspect it'll be the half hour coming back. We will put everything up online, and we're trying now to make sure that we have connecting routes that get to it, so you can come from anywhere on the system and connect and then go out to the beach. So it's only weekend service, Memorial Day to Labor Day, 9 to 5. And we may extend it to 6.
That's great.
That's the skinny on it.
Yeah,
please don't bring all of your beach equipment, umbrellas and the like. They're available for very cheap out there, but please bring you, your family, and enjoy a very cheap ride out to the beach.
But you could bring some things, right?
Some
smaller
things.
items. I think is this the bus that's going to have the rack above? You can put things.
Well, one of the things that we're going to do is we ran a pilot program last fall. Unfortunately, it rained a couple of weekends. We did the pilot program, so we didn't get a chance to see all the permutations of things that people wanted to bring with them. But we're going to sort of think about how we might be able to put some racks on outboard on the buses, like you'd see maybe at a ski area where you can put skis. But for now, I mean, we're not going to have any special equipment on there to handle more than just a regular carry load. So please just keep that in mind. But this is as much for us to learn as it is for everyone to get out there. And so any feedback we get would be really appreciated.
I'm sure everyone will love it, because I know it's difficult to park at the beach. Is there a possibility with the new focus on infrastructure transit that the LCRT timeline could speed up, or is it pretty set?
Well, Sharon can jump in here, but I can say this too. It's pretty set. I mean, we're in a program and a process for an already funded grant program that we then have to qualify for. Once that grant program is secured, then we go into the process of designing and building. So I don't think at this point it's going to make any difference who the president or the Secretary of Transportation is. We're sort of locked into the process as we go right now.
Yep, that's correct.
Thank you, Sharon. It's always, listen, it's the best part of my day when Sharon, who's the world's expert on something, tells me that I'm correct. It's like very affirmational, if that's a word. Thank you, Sharon.
All right, so more beach talk. So the West Ashley folks want to know, are they going to get a shuttle? They say it would be great to get a shuttle to Folly Beach, a more sustainable option. So yeah.
We agree, and we would love to have service to all the beaches. As you all probably know, if you live in the West Ashley area, if you've been following Carter's history, we did run to Folly Beach for a good long time, and we couldn't get anybody to ride it. So we're looking at it. I suspect if IOP is successful this summer, that we will expand, and the natural place to expand would be from a West Ashley stop to Folly Beach. It's on our mind. The board is very interested. I see we actually have a board member joining us today. Thank you for that. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on it, and we want to make sure that you don't have to drive to go to the beach. You shouldn't have to drive to go to the beach, and we're working on that.
Excellent. So how can citizens access Carter ridership reports?
Tune into our board meetings every month. We give ridership reports every single month, or you can, I think, probably mail in a request. We'd be happy to share them with you. I don't know that we publish ridership reports every day, do we, Michelle?
I know we put the agendas online, and so if there's a ridership memo and a report in there, all of those are at ridecarter.com.
So we publish every month to our board, and like Michelle said, all that's posted online is attached, so you can get our ridership reports. If you go, by the way, and look at our ridership reports, please remember that this last year we've been in COVID, so ridership has been down.
Yes.
Right. And if they want to come to your board meeting, how do they do that?
Well, we are virtual right now. All our board meetings are virtual. I don't know when that's going to change. Probably sometime in 2021. But in the meantime, go to ridecarta.com. There'll be something posted about our board meetings and how to access them. We actually have had a number of people participating virtually rather than coming in person. So it's very easy. Go to ridecarta.com. The dates of our board meetings and the access information is there. We do them via Zoom. We use Zoom.
Yeah, I think all the online meetings have made it easier to go to public meetings.
Absolutely.
That's been my experience. I mean, our city council meetings, we have far more people participate virtually and publicly than they did when they had to come all the way down to City Hall and sit and wait. So same thing with our CARTA board meetings. There's been a good number of people that have tuned in, and we welcome you to do it. One thing I think that you'll be heartened by is you've got 18 people on a board that are very committed to public transit in this community, very committed. We have about 100% attendance rate at CARTA board meetings, 100% participation rate, and a interest rate that's through the roof. So it's a very good and responsible board, and I would encourage anybody who's interested to call in and see us in action and ask us questions.
Excellent. So William Hamilton says Mrs. Peeler or Miss Peeler wants to know exactly how the 40 bus will connect with the beach shuttle as she cannot cross the IOP connector on foot.
Stay tuned. We're working on that.
Absolutely.
All right. And I know a lot of MUSC riders ride Express. Are there any improvements for that or any changes for that in coming? Any future thoughts on that?
Well, the one improvement we're making system-wide, and we've been committed to for the last couple of years and only been able to do it really for the last couple of years, is fleet replacement. You know, we operated one of the oldest fleets in America, if not the oldest fleet in America, 2-3 years ago. So we're in the process of fleet replacement. We're also committed to battery electric, to going as little impact on the environment as we can. So the number one improvement system-wide will be our fleet replacement, and then obviously with the express buses being used heavily by MUSC, we'll stay in close contact with you all. And if there's any route adjustments or improvements we need to make, we'll certainly do that. But buses and then amenities on the buses and reliability, that's really where we're working hard to improve.
Well, that's great. And I've seen a little bit about, the solar lights coming to bus stops and new bus shelters and new benches and the bus shelters themselves being solar. Y'all are just really
That's what I said.
pushing the limits here.
We've come a long way.
We really did. We just are running out of time. But yeah, we've been doing a whole lot. I'm sorry, Chairman Seekings, continue.
No, that's great.
Yeah. So yeah, we definitely want to get all that information out, because like I said, we have been doing, we've got a lot that's going on, including digital signage and whatnot that's coming up. So we will definitely be going ahead and moving forward and booking our next Conversation Cafe, probably as soon as we get off of this one, to make sure that we can get back with you guys and get all the rest of those updates to you guys.
By the way, Christine, just for everyone out there, if you don't have it on your phone, please download the Transit app. We subscribe to Transit. That app will work wherever you go, essentially in the world. But when you're here in Charleston, it tunes right into the CARTA system, tells you where the buses are, it shows them in real time, which is very helpful.
That's true. I've used it.
Yep, just Transit comes right up, free.
Excellent. Excellent. So there are no more questions in the chat, and we are almost at time. So want to thank you all again for coming today, and want to thank all of the participants for coming today. A lot of thank yous coming into the chat there. I know everybody appreciates CARTA, and we appreciate your time today, everyone. So again,
thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And again, just as a reminder, Christine, I'm going to send you that flyer and the information. When you send this out to everyone, we'll make sure that we link that, and also let Christine know if we can actually email you specific flyer information on CARTA on demand, as well as updates when we get IOP Beach Shuttle and everything going as well. Thank you guys. We appreciate you.
Thank you all.
Thanks
y'all have a great day.
Thanks,
Good.
everyone.
Thank you guys. And like I said, this video is being recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel. Our social media is MUSC Go Green on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. And if you're not subscribed to our newsletter, we have a monthly newsletter, so you can subscribe yourself to that at musc.edu/gogreen. Thank you guys so much for being here.